In the early 1990s, Malibu Comics published The Protectors, a team book largely consisting of characters from a different company, Centaur Publications, that had fallen into public domain. Winnie the Pooh and Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse are also in the public domain, so how long before they're featured in a superhero team book? Though several names were changed for various reasons, like modernization or avoiding confusion with other characters. While originally intended to be 6 issues, The Protectors proved so popular it got extended to 20, and is probably why some characters got their own spin-offs, like the hero we're looking at today, the Ferret. Back in the 1940s, Cal Denton was a police commissioner who decided to become a vigilante to ferret out crooks his officers were unable to catch, wearing a blue suit, yellow cape, and a fuzzy ferret-like cowl, with his human eyes right below its animal peepers. Just let that dead-eyed stare sink in now to haunt your nightmares later, kids. Really gives Ace McCloud a run for his money. He possessed the skills of a ferret, which the wiki I consulted doesn't specify, as well as superhuman strength and flight. You know, like a ferret.
Pooh, a man, he flies like a moron.
Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. A while back, one of my viewers suggested that I take a look at this title. They may have meant the ongoing, but since I'm such a weird-brained completist, I'm taking issue with the Ferret one-shot that preceded it. Let's see if this comic makes us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. The cover has a decent, dynamic feel to it. Our title character standing prominently against a shining backdrop, surrounded by a purple mist, some stereotypical ninjas, a bulky blue dude, and someone who looks like Kingpin got drinks with Mike Tyson one night, woke up with a hangover and fresh ink the next morning. Also, no offense to Malibu, but why does their 90s logo make me want to get a 20-piece McNugget? Ferret doesn't care. He doesn't have to. Will I care? I might forget to ask for extra packets of sweet and sour sauce. Written by R.A. Jones, with art by Thomas Derenick, Deodato, Joseph Allen, Janelle Cruz, Ann Chien, and Diane Bata, we begin with our hero inside a Chinese restaurant, fighting off several ninja. When you wear a uniform and call yourself the Ferret, that kind of trouble just seems to naturally follow you around. That and people giggling about how you expect to be taken seriously after calling yourself the Ferret. One ninja doesn't want to wait for the backup weapon in the van, since they're getting pretty well trounced, and throws a grenade at the vigilante, regardless of what'll happen to his compatriots. And Ferret's reaction shot here, oof, looks like he's pushing 60 after some less than stellar plastic surgery. Fortunately, thanks to the agility and reflexes of his namesake animal, he just jumps out of the way and rolls to a stop. So despite the proximity of the explosion that killed 2 of his opponents, he's just got some cuts and the wind knocked out of him.
Not scientifically possible!
He reflects to a bit earlier, grabbing some food as his civilian identity, Cal Denton. This was after the restaurant was closed, but the owner, Tommy Singh, is an old buddy of his who did him a solid. They've been friends since childhood, performing music, Tommy playing the drums while our hero sang. This next song is called My Water Bottle's Empty, parentheses, My Cage Needs Cleaning. Unfortunately for Tommy, as much as he enjoys his day job, he's been paying protection to a local gang, and they've been asking for more money of late. After telling them off, they've been calling in threats on the daily. Cal offers to look into this, saying he has friends who could help deal with the thugs, called the Purple Dragons. They're 4 human-sized mutant turtles, proficient in ninjutsu. Don't be surprised if they smell like a sewer. Tommy appreciates the offer, but tells him not to worry, expecting the gang to ease off their demands, while he pays a bit more to make everyone happy. Cal left, figuring his buddy knew what he was doing, as a van with very unsubtle decor pulled up to the eatery. Barely a block away, he heard a commotion and rushed back to Tommy's place in seconds, in time to see him thrown through his own window, one of Cal's oldest friends now dead. You don't take anything away from me without paying a heavy price. If you can't pay all at once, I have an easy installment plan of 10 savage pummelings a month. He suited up and caught the gang trashing the place, bringing us to the here and now, as he recovers from that explosion. A new figure warns him to stay down, threatening to kill the hero if he shows any hostility, as the ninjas escape. It's the azure-looking fellow from the cover, calling himself Iron Skull. I'd say this would put the kibosh on Marvel using that name for a story about Red Skull stealing Iron Man's armor or something, but this comic took a gang's name from the Ninja Turtle franchise, so I'd say it'd be poetic justice. Also, Marvel owns Malibu now anyway, so moot point. Also, they did have a story where Red Skull got his own Iron Man armor of sorts. Also, I'm rambling at this point, so moving on. The Ferret is aware of an Iron Skull who was a human hero as far as he knew, but he disappeared. This robotic newbie proves to be stronger and faster than expected, but that doesn't deter our hero, especially since he doesn't have to worry about killing his foe, and can cut loose a little more than usual. You can't kill a machine. Lieutenant Commander Data, Vision, and the planet Cybertron would like to have a word with you. However, his punches aren't as immobilizing as he had hoped, as Skull grabs him by the neck and throws him against a mirror. Does that count as bad luck for Ferret or the robot? He wakes up a bit later, I guess the machine leaving without following through on the whole killing him if he shows hostility thing. Either that, or all Cal's efforts didn't scan as hostile enough. As he muses about how he should have been able to best the robo-enemy, he spots red liquid on his glove, figuring it to be oil, but upon closer olfactory inspection, he discovers it is oil, with traces of human blood. Count Dracula took his car in for an oil change, started an argument over the price of synthetic fluid, and it kinda turned into a whole thing. This means what he faced was a cyborg, possibly the original Iron Skull, and derides himself for not realizing it sooner because he didn't use his senses. You know, the famous cyborg detecting senses of the humble Ferret. This could be a bigger case than it seems, warranting the involvement of the other protectors, but Cal decides he'll only do that if it becomes necessary. He can hear police sirens getting close, and would return to give them the details of the night's events later as we go to the sewer, where the ninja gang cheer on the not kingpin from the cover, Tai Shung, who boasts how well they've done and how their coffers will soon swell with money. If we kill a few more small business owners, we can continue to live in these luxurious wastewaterfront properties. He goes on how his dad started this gang, was mocked as insane for some reason, and called Mad Ming before his execution by Chinese communists. Hey, come on, man, just get to the plans about robbing and killing people. Don't bring politics into this. The mantle of leader didn't die with him as they thought, but was passed on to his son Tai Shung. As he not only leads the gang, he is the Purple Dragon, which explains that totally subtle tattoo on his face. He tells the woman at his side, Hikari, to attend him. She complies, and I guess attend me means let me kiss your hand while I compliment your looks. Weird. He goes on to boast how his cyborg has the strength to see his plans through, and that soon no one will be able to stop the dragons. And if that isn't a cue for a dramatic entrance, I've never heard one. Ferret has found them out after some serious work differentiating Iron Skull's scent from the rest of the sewer stink. You might say I followed my nose, Shung. Now hand over those Fruit Loops. Not only is our rodent-themed protagonist not worried about a second round with the dragons, he outright says he wants another go at his tin soldier. Shung is so confident he decides to be sporting and reveal the key to defeating Iron Skull.
I am too smart. I am too smart. I am too smart.
It's so predictable, isn't it? The way arrogance and stupidity seem to go hand in hand. Next, Shung will go to the police station and dangle evidence against him right in front of the cops because he's a sportsman. How is Dime Store Wilson Fisk not already in prison? He calls attention to the biomechanical components along Skull's spine, some of which he doesn't even know the function of.
Dumb police! You're dumb!
However, he knows that one of them is the mechanism that keeps him obedient. If destroyed, he'll get his free will back. Take out any other component, he'll die instantly. But he's covered by Geek Squad, so I can get a new cyborg enforcer for free! It's a real give him liberty or give him death situation, so Shung kisses his hench lady's hand again as he orders Skull to kill the hero. Ferret lunges at the cyborg, managing to take him over a ledge, and have him take the brunt of the fall. Not that it does any good. He realizes he has to stop trying to rely on strength and use his other skills, like his superior agility, evading a cyborg punch that gets lodged into the floor, and giving him his opening to strike at his spine. But Cal hesitates, realizing he could give the enslaved hero freedom as easily as death. Potentially, he'd gain an ally to take on the gang, but doesn't want to even accidentally kill him.
Every eye was on me. The only sound was that of running water.
Well, remember where you are. That's not just water.
I hate this! Ew, I hope that thing that just floated by was a candy bar.
There was no way I was doing this review without that old gem. With Skull's hand now free from the floor, Ferret had no more time to lose and dealt a decisive attack, managing to remove the control device. He didn't so much guess as he realized that deep down, Skull was still human, so each component is attached to a human, and partially human itself, which doesn't make much sense to me. But the module enslaving him was completely mechanical, and only Ferret's keen senses could suss that out. I think what he's trying to say is that the control doohickey was the only thing not directly connected to Iron Skull's body or biological systems. That kind of makes sense, but adding in that bit about other components being partially human does make it a tad confusing. Ferret says it's over, but Skull gets up with a not quite, aiming an arm-mounted weapon at him. But not really, because fake out as he fires a tiny missile at his former oppressor. Maybe it was supposed to be a warning shot, or maybe his aim is off, because it just explodes a wall nearby. Hikari runs for it while Shung takes a moment to order his ninja to kill both heroes before joining her in the escape tunnel. Though swarmed by over 24 sword-wielding goons, the two eventually win. Iron Skull explains this was but one contingent of purple dragons among many around the globe, who seem to be working to finance some wicked plan of Tai Shung's. Cal asks where he's been the last 25 years and how he got all cyborged up, but answers will have to wait until after the Blue Bruiser has taken care of the dragon's operations, which he's done for the last 50 years. While grateful for his renewed freedom, Skull politely declines the help of the Protectors and takes off, leaving Ferret to call the team's headquarters to collect the ninja goons.
Would you believe I need one humongous garbage pickup?
For the last time, Ferret, we are not helping clean out your apartment again. I still have night terrors about what I found in your vegetable crisper. The following night, Cal is at a club to perform, reflecting on how the victory of stopping the bad guys and freeing a hero from mind control didn't feel so great given the loss of his friend. Yet life goes on and consists of the good and bad. The comic ends with him dedicating a final song to every loved one people in the audience has lost in their lives. And in particular,
"This one's for you, Tommy."
And while we don't get any lyrics, I think we can all safely assume what he's singing in this very solemn and somber moment.
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, never gonna run around and desert you.
That was the Ferret one-shot, and I thought it was okay. Not that bad, but nothing that feels like it really stands out among other comics of the era. Maybe I would have felt different if I had read the Protectors comic, but I don't think I'd ever heard of Malibu back in '92. Heck, that was before I really got into collecting. The story is just fine. The hero avenging a fallen friend, finding a secret villain hideout, and coming face to face with a stronger opponent with his own established history in this universe. However, other than the implications of his name relating to some of his physical abilities, we don't get much on Cal's powers, until after the story, where there's a data sheet. Not sure why it looks like he's sporting fangs here. Is he doing a Dracula impression? Having this info here is all well and good, but after the story, which is meant as a launching point for his own ongoing solo, it may leave some wondering more than others how he's able to fare against a grenade blast and a cyborg. Turns out he's got quadruple the strength of an ordinary man. In the story itself, there isn't much on his personal life, save a bit of him as a singer and his friendship with a guy that dies in the first few pages. Again, the Protector's title may have covered some of this, like how he used to be Washington, D.C.'s police commissioner until being dismissed after a brutality scandal, or that he has a streak of violence in his nature. Maybe that's why he went by the Ferret, because they can get agitated and restless unless there's another ferret around. What he needs is another crime fighter modeled after a domesticated rodent, and that ought to mellow him out just fine. Tai Shung forcing him to choose between risking killing Iron Skull or being killed himself was a good villain move, and almost saved him pointing out his cyborg slave had an Achilles heel, or Achilles vertebra in this case. Almost saved it. It would have been less stupid of not Fisk to just sick Skull on him, and Ferret having to learn from his earlier fight, how he didn't rely enough on his senses. Why that is never explained, but I suppose his violent streak could be to blame, even if it's not specified. So he'd have to use his agility to dodge and maneuver, stall as long as he can, even though he can't keep it up forever, then notices the mechanized spine, seeing and probably hearing how they move, but noticing one seems to work differently than the others, in particular when Shung gave a command. It doesn't seem to Cal that it's integrated into the skull's flesh, so destroys it, after putting pieces together that it was controlling him. While this would make Shung less stupid, it also kind of takes away the tension of Cal risking taking Skull's life. Maybe meet somewhere in the middle, have Shung snark about how Skull might die if Ferret isn't careful around the delicate machinery. When, of course, he's not busy kissing his gal Friday's hand. What was up with that anyway? Also, the cover claims Ferret doesn't care and doesn't have to, but this whole caper was instigated by how much he cared about his slain buddy. He never seemed all that intent on killing any of the cannon fodder set against him, and cared enough about Iron Skull, who was a complete stranger to him, to not even want to risk taking him out, even in a fight to the death. That cover was just plain misleading. As mentioned earlier, this Ferret is a then updated recreation of a Golden Age hero, and his first appearance in Man of War Comics #2 is wild. Dubbed the Killer of Gangster Rats, because 1940s, his first adventure saw him track the O'Leary gang, who were neither ninjas nor dragon-themed, but did hijack milk trucks and dump the milk before they could get to, orphanages and such. No explanation why they did this, no motive or grand scheme, just wasting lactose. I guess it was just meant to be real bare-bones, evil for evil's sake kind of thing. Anywho, this original iteration of the character was strong enough to lift one car, wreck another, possibly killing the gangsters inside, it's not made clear, though it'd support the killer moniker on the cover, but has trouble getting past steel shutters when he finds the gang's hideout. Yet when faced with presumably steel bars, he just breaks through them. That's pretty inconsistent. As part of his investigation, he knocks out a couple thugs and drives their car, following their boss in the car ahead, but they get wise to him and shoot out the tires. It doesn't impede him much, just making it easier for him to follow from the sky, because as mentioned before, this version can fly. Like a ferret. I mean, could he not have just flown to begin with? I guess his stunt may have lulled the gang into a false sense of security, if briefly, but given how easily he beats the henchmen at the end, I don't think a couple more in the big fight would have mattered much. And even though it's his first appearance, context clues suggest he's already established as a hero, so you'd think more people would know he flies, and is possibly bulletproof either from his powers or his suit. It's almost worth doing a review on its own, but it's 8 pages long and I kinda just did that, didn't I? Back to the 90s version. I think his costume is fine. Brown isn't often a very striking color for a superhero, or supranormal as they're called in this universe, but it works very well with the green boots and gloves because they're very earthy colors. Maybe the look could use a couple more green points over the torso, break up the overall bodysuit, but it's not bad. Doesn't exactly make me think Ferret, but hey, robins aren't typically red and yellow and bats aren't blue. That I know of. And I do kind of wonder if his long blonde hair was meant to evoke his 40s counterpart's yellow cape. The art is good for the most part, in a lot of ways very much like other comics of the era, in terms of character designs and colors, maybe a few errors and peculiar choices here and there, but honestly I can't say I have any big gripes about it. Overall, while there was nothing really wrong with this story, I didn't find myself too invested, as many details about this character were likely published in a book that was already ongoing and that I never read. But it did kick off an ongoing that lasted nearly a year, so to some degree, it seemed to have worked for some Protectors fans at the time. If nothing else, it doesn't seem any worse than any other 90s comics. Not trying too hard to be oversexed, edgy, or dark, but neither being too safe. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.